It's my birthday now. Probably it isn't my birthday when you watch this, but it surely is when I'm recording it. So, my wife has made me a delicious peanut butter cheesecake, and I'm taking a break from trying to be funny. So, move along, nothing to see here. Hello fellow herders of blue, and welcome to my channel, and also welcome to another episode of the Shovelcast Project. This is my personal dive into experimenting with NMM, and for this week I have quite a weird one. This is a kind of, I don't know, white bone looking NMM, whatever you want to call it, but I think it's really cool, and I think it's worth taking a look into it. So, let's get cracking. As you can see, we're starting from a base coat of RAKARTH flesh, and our first highlight will be a Screaming Skull. And what I will do with Screaming Skull is sketch the highlights on my armor. But first of all, I want to make something a bit different, so I'm only going to sketch the highlights created by the source of light that is closest to each surface. So for example, in this leg here, it's hit by this source of light that will be in this corner, but also this one. So, as this is the closest one, I'm going to do those using Screaming Skull. So you can clearly see I will have like a strip of highlight here. Don't worry too much about blending at this stage. I'm just marking where I want my highlights to be. Here in the curved surface, I'm doing that. And what I will do for the light hitting from one of the faraway sources of light is use Deep King Flesh. So I'm going to do the same. I'm going to sketch the highlights. So this will be from this source of light hitting from here. So I'm just going to do basically the opposite. This is a colder, desaturated color that has green in it, and that will help create a sense of coldness. And I think it will combine really well with the yellowy, more intense color created on the other side. And with that sketching done, you can also see that I modified where my highlights were placed on this side of the leg. That's why we do all the sketching, just to see if we are happy with our light placement, and I wasn't. So I put that highlight more towards this side instead of this side. And then I just corrected it with RAKARTH flesh. And now I'm going to take RAKARTH flesh and I have it thinned down to a sort of heavy glaze consistency. You're going to see that now. You can see how thin my paint is there. And now I'm going to use this heavy glaze to smooth out the transition between this Screaming Skull and the RAKARTH flesh. And I'm brushing this from the Screaming Skull into the RAKARTH flesh. You can see how I'm doing that there. Just like that. Now I'm going to take Screaming Skull and I'm going to do exactly the same, but in the opposite direction. This is my Screaming Skull here. You can see how thin that is there. And I'm just going to brush it in the other direction. Doing this, I'm going to reclaim some of the lost areas of highlight and continue to smooth out my transition. Of course, regarding to smoothing transitions out, This is a never-ending game, and you can keep doing this for ages and ages until you have the smoothest transition, but sometimes you just have to decide when enough is enough and just stop. What point that is, that I will leave up to you. Here on the color side, I'm going to do something different just to show you another way of blending two tones out, and this I'm going to use a different color. I'm going to use Iron Rack Skin, and I will just put this Iron Rack Skin in between both colors. This is again thinned down to a very thin consistency, probably something like a bit of a heavy glaze, as I like to do usually. And I'm going to put this color, just brush it on in between both. Just look how I move my brush. I'm almost doing a kind of steepling motion, kind of brushing from one color to the other. This is very thin, so I'm just trying to create sort of transition. My blends are now looking quite good. I'm very happy with them, but I'm going to refine them a bit more using again RAKARTH flesh, thin down to a heavy glaze consistency. You can see how thin that is. I'm probably thinning down a bit more than in the Screaming Skull step, and then just going to use this to brush over the Iron Rack Skin transition and a bit into the RAKARTH flesh, just to create that final smooth blend. With all my first highlights now finished, I'm going to start shading just to get a sense of the volumes, and for this I'm going to use STORMVERMIN Fur, and I'm going to shade with this all the armor. And again, having my STORMVERMIN Fur thin down to a heavy glaze consistency. STORMVERMIN Fur is a very thin color, so it's very easy to glaze with it. It's very transparent naturally, so just apply this into the shadows of your model. There you go. So basically brushing this into any place that we didn't add a highlight. Always brushing in the direction I want the shadows to go. And of course, don't forget to add this into rivets and into panel lines. With my first shadow now established, I'm going to move into the second one, and this will be a one-to-one mix of INCURI Darkness and SKAVENALIGHT DINGE. And I'm thinning this mix again into a heavy glaze consistency, just like that, and I'm going to brush this very carefully into all the deepest shadows. And I'm adding a blue tint into this shadow just to add a bit of interest and temperature contrast, as well as some more color variation to make this, I know, a bit more interesting. I'm going to use INCURI Darkness to shade everything in this model. This includes the cape in the back, which you can see also has INCURI Darkness there. I'm going to use this in the steel. I'm going to use this in the leather, in the black. Everything in this model will have INCURI Darkness in one way or another, because I want to add a bit of atmosphere. For him, I want them to look, I know, a bit of maybe midnight clad kind of figure, and I think INCURI Darkness will help a lot with that. And for the final shadow on our armor, I'm going to take a one-to-one mix of INCURI Darkness and black, and I'm going to do again thin down to the same consistency. You can see that there, and I'm going to shade this put this into the very strongest shadows. And I also going to use this to panel line everything. And make our armor really defined. So now all my lights and shadows are now defined, and I'm going to add my secondary reflections now. And for this I'm going to use one more different tone. This will be Gorth or Brown, and this will add a bit of warmth and redness into the shadows. What you want to see is parts that will reflect light coming from other panels and things like that. For example, here on the other side of the knee, I'm going to take Gorth or Brown. I'm going to do a line there, and same thing here. And finally I'm going to take Palette with Flesh and I'm going to highlight everything with this. So I'm going to add the final highlight into the Screaming Skull. I'm going to pick up the secondary reflections, any rivets, just like that. And of course I'm going to highlight the cold side too. And now to finish off the armor, I'm going to just take pure white. I'm going to do very small glints of light, for example, very small dots, here, here. Very small subtle highlights, where I think light will glint off edges. And with that out of the way, our NMM leg is done. I will of course continue painting this model, but I ran out of time to record the video for this week. So I will leave you with my beautiful leg, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye! Do you like my videos and want to help me make them? Well, there are several ways you can do that. You can follow me on social media. You have the links to all my social media in the description below. You can also check all my affiliate links in the pinned comment of this video. Use those links in your next hobby purchase and help me without any additional cost to you. I also have merch that you can see just below this video or in the shop tab of my channel. But most importantly, there is Patreon and channel members. You have the link to my Patreon in the description below. In the pinned comment of the video, or if you prefer, you can just click the join button below this video. Patreon and channel members help me do all the cool projects that I want to make and help me improve the quality of my videos. Don't be afraid, no content will ever be hidden behind a paywall, but it's a nice way to help me and you will get something back for generosity. I said, guys, thank you very much for watching. A special thank you to Ben Morin, Daniel Figueiredo, Heather Amstead, Lauren Sigismondi, Victor Domen, Michael Boye, Christoph Moret, Joshua Bohannon, Ryan Mann, Beldrain, Javi Mota, Kevin Sulas, Kieran Omurthail, Renat Lindemann, Jonathan Ekelund, Dr. V, GeForce, Elric Edge, Sasha Park, Yeti Butler, Manuel Vilela, Josh Simpson, Dominic Trevizo, Richard Kekowski, Brent Sillinger, Mark Jarvis, Gareth Smith, Bill Caswar, Matteo De Rienzo, Aaron Dell, Natius Maximus, Samuel, Supernef, and Aequitas for being the coolest persons in the planet. Be like these fine folks, join my Patreon, and take control.